Thank you for calling 1-800-SAD-DESIGN. Welcome back to episode 15. And today we're going to just be talking about what design was like before computers.
Pre-digital methods.
Yeah, I think for me it'd be just interesting to know how it all went down before computers. Because I feel like it seems relatively like quote unquote easy just because you have the computers and tools, but before that, doing everything by hand, it was definitely a lot more time consuming.
I think there was a lot more like craftsmanship and dedication involved as well. Like
more skill.
Yeah.
Like true artistic skills.
Yeah, be a true artist to do it. Because I think because of computers and all these very nice tools that we have now, it's like anyone could do it.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but I think like older people are
they definitely had like the talent before computers.
Yeah. And then they'll probably see everything like online. They're like, look at these dudes.
Back in my day.
yeah. Kind of like that stuff.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, how's your past 2 weeks been?
I can't believe it's been 2 weeks already. I feel like it was like 2 days ago that we were sitting here talking last, but it's been good. Nothing crazy new. Still moving everything into the house, new house. No new projects. Still working on the menu for the restaurant I work at.
Do they have like revisions?
Yeah,
they needed?
The owner doesn't know what he wants.
Oh.
He doesn't. And it's not like design wise for me, it's on his end, and the content, like the food items, he can't decide what he wants, so it's just like he keeps changing
the meals.
The meals, yeah, he keeps changing his mind on what's gonna be on the actual menu. Nothing
interesting
about like my design. So I get it done, and then he's like, actually, we're getting rid of these 3 items, we're adding these 3 items on, and I'm like, dude.
I feel like if you were to ask for a new menu design, you should just have that already locked in.
Yeah, he doesn't know. It's fine. I'm patient. Got nothing else going on, so yeah. Still working on getting my little creative space set up in the house. We've decided the like office like arts area is also going to be like a music studio too, because a lot of people in my house are musicians, and like I kind of am too, so I was like, that'd be really cool to have it all be in one, like this is just the creative space. Mm-hmm. Do your thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll probably be working on today after we're done recording, is setting that up. But
nice.
Yeah. What's going on in your world, Ty?
Nothing really. Design wise, I think the only thing that I've been working on is I've started that logo for my mom, and it's not really that far. I think pretty much just in that sketch phase still, just trying to figure it all out. And I'm not liking it. I don't know why.
Some projects start like that.
I think it's just also some logos. It's hard. I mean, I also didn't really have a whole lot to work off of because my mom was just like, make it look better. And I was like, okay, sure. So basically, all I'm doing right now is kind of just giving it a newer look. Mm-hmm. And then I'll probably just send a sketch over and just see what she and the other people in the group think. So yeah, because I honestly, she didn't give me like any sort of direction, which I think is the worst part.
What is her logo for?
I don't really know what role she is now, but she's like it's for a sister city group from my hometown, and she's like one of the oh god, why did I just blank on the word? Who are the people that go on like field trips, but it's like the parents and they like
chaperone?
Yeah. She's like the adult chaperone trip leader type person. And she takes like high schoolers and I think junior high kids like out of the country. So they go to like Japan, Italy, Spain, France, stuff like that. I think it's kind of like takes them for about like 2 weeks. I think that's kind of like the average length. And then kind of just lets these kids explore,
Yeah.
get out of town type of thing.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And so, yeah, basically they just have this. I mean, the logo as is, I think is good enough. Like, it's fine. So I'm not really sure why she wants to change it. Like, if you were to look at it, I don't think it's that bad where it needs a drastic change.
Mm-hmm.
But she wants it. Or I guess someone wants it. I don't know if it's so much for my mom, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I've done a logo for my mom before too, for her YouTube channel and stuff. It was my first ever logo.
Yeah?
Before I was in design school.
That's what I did for my brother too.
Yeah. And looking back at it now, like,
I still kind of like mine.
Like, I kind of like it, but it's a little busy. It's very busy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it could be simplified, but it's also just like so her too that I'm like, I love it.
Yeah, I remember when
but
I
it's
first
all
did mine
hand
too.
drawn on Procreate because I
Mine
did
as
not
well.
use the Creative Suite yet.
I remember
Vectors.
mine, the one for my brother is like a rice bowl with the face and chopsticks in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember for the chopsticks, I put like, there's that like wood grain brush.
Yeah.
And I think I used that just to add a little bit of detail. It's like very light. But I remember doing that. And then now looking back, it's like, well, it's such a fine detail. Like most people can't even notice it.
Mine's
yeah,
so detailed too. Like, it's for her YouTube, which is Crafty Cat. And so there's obviously our cat, which is like the mascot for her channel. And his tail like crosses into the T in the cat. And there's like some of the letters, I think that it's the A has like embroidery, like the little stitches like going all the way around the letters. And I don't know, it's just, very overly detailed like that too. So unnecessary, but it's cute.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even... Yeah, it's hard to think of like how my thought process was when you do that stuff before taking any classes.
Yeah.
I also thought it was funny where I was just... It's like my brother knew I was just messing with an iPad because I was like kind of like trying to learn stuff before going to school. And then he just asked me. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
sure, I'll try. But yeah, I kind of like it. It's like the first thing I probably ever drew on the iPad.
Yeah, I think it was mine too. But that's so fun.
Yeah, I kind of miss the days where I would just sit down and draw something.
Yeah, I do too. I've been wanting to get back into just like sketching.
I used to
I used to do it like all the time, especially when I lived in the dorms.
Yeah.
I don't know why specifically in the dorms, but I think it was because I hated my living situation that I would just sit up in my room and doodle all day.
I remember I would like sit down for like 2 to 3 hours and just work on an illustration. And it would be like in my room, in the library, or like in the park. And for some reason now it just doesn't like flow the same.
Yeah. I get like the stick figure base out and then I'm like, and I'm done.
Well, I always avoid drawing like living objects, mainly because I just know it won't look good.
Yeah.
So I kind of just do like inanimate objects. But even then, I feel like, I mean, maybe it's probably also because there's nothing really I would want to draw right now.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting.
It is. Speaking of interesting, I think we should go into the design talk because I feel like there might be a lot to cover with what we're calling this episode Prehistoric Design.
Yeah.
What did graphic designers do before computers? And
also just like the evolution
yeah.
of design. Because I mean, like, obviously
of, like,
started with like by hand, like
illuminated manuscripts.
yeah, hand drawn things and all of that, and then
calligraphy was huge. Like,
yeah,
everyone wrote
calligraphy.
like that.
Everyone wrote like that, which I
It's
think
just
is
crazy.
insane. Because nowadays people, like some people's penmanship is just disgusting.
Chicken scratch. I'm
And
like, what is this?
Some people's like cursive. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a useless thing nowadays, but I like to write in cursive sometimes.
Mine's like the weird mix, you know, like it's half manuscript, half cursive, but I hate my handwriting. I'm not going to lie.
There are times where I do write and I'm like, oh, that looks clean. And then other times I know it's like I'm not writing to make it look nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that looks great.
But I wish we still wrote like that. Like,
yeah.
So good.
My mom has like really clean handwriting. I think that's because she's also a teacher. But it's like Comic Sans accurate. Mm-hmm. Like it's clean and it like everything looks the same. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah. I feel like mine is a mixture of both of my parents. My dad's kind of like that doctor looking handwriting, but still legible. I think he does like the all caps kind of handwriting.
Yeah.
And then my mom's just like perfectly clean. And mine's kind of in between. And like a little mixture of like a cursive feel to it.
Yeah.
Like just to write a little quicker, I connect some of my letters. But yeah.
I don't know where mine came from, but it is all its own. Like,
yeah?
Yeah.
One of my brothers, I mean, it's also like nowadays we don't really write anything by hand anymore.
No.
So whenever I pick up a pen or pencil to write something, I am so scared. Because it's like the first time I've ever written something in like at least a couple weeks. So I'm always like, oh God, what is it going to look like?
I write every day for work, but it's just orders. And so it's all like that shortened, like,
yeah.
For a bacon cheeseburger, it's just bake on my BAC with F fries.
It's also like when you're holding something, right?
Yeah.
Because like when I'm writing something in my hands, it's like on a Post-it. It is awful.
Yeah, and when I'm going fast too, like we're having a rush, and I'm like, yes, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And it's just like scribbles. Yeah. And I'm like, what is like,
that? What is that? Trying to like follow the brush stroke, and you're like, it's not a B or an R.
Yeah. The kitchen printers went out the other day, and so we had to write all our orders by hand. And I had this big top, like of 14 people, and I had to rewrite the whole order out for them in like very nice, clean handwriting so they'd be able to read it. And it took forever.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's like a high stress moment.
Yeah.
Type thing. But yeah, I mean, it is crazy that that's kind of how.
Yeah, like
it technically
things
started.
By hand are disappearing, but that's how it started, by hand.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I feel like, making a comeback, but it's not like the same level as it was back then, just because there's like some things that you can kind of like cheat your way to get the same look. But even then, if people make something that looks similar to that type of stuff, people are still going to be impressed.
Yeah.
Because they see it and they're like, that's obviously like, that took some time. Unlike, you know, downloading a font. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it kind of just went from pen and paper type things, and then like letterpress,
printing presses and stuff,
and then typewriters, and then computers.
Yeah, but even still, like all the letters.
The letters were like hand
carved, and at first they were hand drawn before they were carved into the metal plates that would be put into the letterpress or the
it's just like so much work.
Yeah,
and it's like
very meticulous. And I saw somewhere that like even in like newspapers headings and stuff, the designers often did the headlines and text like entirely by hand. Using things called radiograph pens. And like specialized pencils, kind of like you were talking about before we started with the different colored pencils meant different things, you know.
What year was this in?
I do not know.
Because, like, I read a thing saying, like, design things kind of changed after World War II.
Yeah, I think this was before.
But even then, during both World Wars, they had, like, propaganda posters and stuff like that. And that was all hand-drawn.
Hand-drawn, yeah.
Which is interesting because it's like they had to make a bunch of copies of it. But they didn't have, like, copiers.
And then there's also the letraset transfers, which were introduced in the 1960s. And letraset was sheets of transferable letters, allowing designers to just rub down the typeface onto their layouts. And it kind of streamlined the process of incorporating standardized fonts into designs.
Interesting. So it's like already like graphite on a paper, and they just rub it
like
on
already
there?
printed on a paper, and then you just like rub it down where you want it. And
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the chemicals it took to make that are toxic, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
If you, like, mess with that in a class if there was like a more safe version.
Here's a photo of it. Like, it was just like sheets of transfer paper that they would draw or like rub over the top of.
Okay. It's kind of like how
just it makes everything cleaner and more consistent than doing it by hand.
Well, it's like when I was doing like the lino printing, sometimes to like get your drawing on the block, you like trace it and then slap it on and then trace it back so it like imprints that graphite on the lino.
Yeah.
That sucked, but I mean it was like one of the cheaper ways to do it. So it's kind of like that, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
That's kind of cool though. Actually I do, now that I think about it, I think they did have a class on history of design.
Wish I'd taken it.
But I don't know if it goes like this far into this type of stuff. Because I think Wyatt took it. And he was talking to me. I was like, huh. I mean, it sounds cool, but it's also history, so it's kind of lame.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that one's really cool.
And then there was also the cut and paste layouts. You know, so.
Is that the one with, I saw something where it's like, they had like a printout basically of like a layout for like a news spread or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would like physically with like an X-Acto knife cut out design elements and paste them onto boards and like rearrange them.
Like a scrapbook type?
Yeah,
okay,
like
yeah,
a
that's
scrapbook.
kind of what I saw.
And so that also took a lot of preparation. So like photographing all these photos and then printing them out, or pulling from already existing elements, books, manuscripts.
I mean, it was just way more time consuming.
Yeah. And without the internet, if there was something you were looking for, you couldn't just go online and be like, cat
I want
photos.
that image.
You
Copy
have to either
or
go somewhere and find those cat photos you're looking for, or you'd have to take them yourself.
Yeah. I think that's kind of I think a lot of people don't realize that, but if you actually think about it, you're like, oh, we actually do have it quite nice.
And it is so scrapbooky because they also use rubber cement because it's easy to take off and move,
I saw that. It was like an older bottle. It was like in a full aluminum can, and for some reason it looked even more toxic.
Yeah. We were saying professional scrapbookers.
Yeah, that's the job title.
Yeah.
Rather than graphic designer. At least I don't think the term scrapbooking existed back then. Right?
No, or
it seems kind of
maybe
like
it did, but maybe not.
90s or 80s thing. But yeah, I mean, when you look back at it, it does kind of seem more like scrapbooking. Because you're kind of just taking elements from other things to make your own. And then you I don't know how they mass print it though. That's the one thing I mean, I can probably look more into it,
Yeah.
but because they all
Maybe
have to
we'll.
make like
I didn't look into that actually, but maybe we'll look that up when we
because it's
get there.
like
Or let's do it now.
it's like when they print dollar bills. You know, they have the plates and they just put it in the press and then they just rip them through.
Yeah. Mass print there.
Because even then, like newspapers, I mean, back then when they're making like thousands of copies, probably more than thousands, hundreds, thousands. It's like, I don't even know how many pages are standard for one newspaper thing. I'm going to say like 4. I feel like it's 4.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, that's technically 8 plates to be made, if that's at least how I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay, I looked it up, and after their paste up boards were complete, the 2 printing methods that were commonly used were lithography, which was where the design is drawn on a smooth surface like limestone or metal plates and then inked and transferred to the paper, or offset printing, which was more common for mass printing since you didn't have to do it yourself or like manually every single time. And that's where the image was transferred from onto a plate to a rubber blanket, which then transfers the image to the paper. So I'm thinking it's kind of like film photography.
That's what I'm thinking. Like
there's some kind of chemical process,
or it's
to
more like screen printing.
Yeah, screen
where
printing,
you get the positive.
Yeah, transfer the image on the plate
type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all.
There's 16 steps besides designing to get to final product.
That's just crazy. I mean, even there's still like those large printing places
Yeah.
that do like the magazines and stuff. I forget what it was called. Wasn't it called like lithography? Or something like that. But when we took the tour at that print shop thing,
Oh, yeah.
they had like the giant printer, and it was like the CMYK colors, and then you had like an extra thing for 1 or 2 spot colors.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool, because when it printed out the big spread, it was like, I feel like it was like a 3x4 foot sheet of paper that it printed out, and then they kind of like trimmed it.
Yeah, it was huge.
I remember seeing that. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Imagine working with those printers all day.
I don't know about that.
Printers scare me.
I think it's just the maintenance.
Yeah.
I hate the
I feel like
maintenance
it would
that
be
comes
constant.
with printers. Yeah.
Especially after like a huge print. I'm sure there's something that they have to fix every single time.
Yeah, some sort of cleaning and all that. Yeah, like as much as I love all the like fancy printers and all that, I think the maintenance that comes with it, sometimes, I think with certain people, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Okay. What else? They had drawing tables with the T-squares so that they could always have straight lines and accurate alignments.
Yeah.
Easily accessible. Because their computer is not there to tell them. We'll give them the lock movements.
And one of these articles is there's this. Well, let me actually try to find it. There's a special tape. I think it's just called graphic tape, and it was kind of like your baseline. And I think they just laid it down so like everything was aligned, or if they have shapes that they want to like write or draw in, they like just fit it all in there. And I've never heard of that. I feel like we should have. But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it just doesn't pop up. And then there's also this thing called an erasing shield, which is like a stencil for erasing. So you get like, I mean, not really sure what it'd be for, but I mean, that's kind of interesting as well. But yeah, I found this one article where it's about think it's a guy. I'm not too sure. But it's kind of like his life story of his work life. And it says he began in the design industry in 1984, which I think he says was a few years before. Well, they said they called it the desktop publishing, which is just, I think, before computers came in.
Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of just goes about. He was more of like I don't know. Seems more of like the Trader Joe's type of thing where everything's kind of like hand drawn.
Hand lettering.
Yeah. So he was just showing his process, and he says like, there's a blue pencil that shows like his sketches that kind of is like a preliminary draft of the layout, and then he goes in with a black pen, which he called like India ink or something. That's the final version. And then I think he just erases the blue pencil. So it's kind of like how animators or illustrators do it, where they do their like base layer of like frames or whatever, and then they go over it with the final thing.
Imagine how precise you would have to be too with everything like being hand drawn. Like with computers, it helps make everything so symmetrical and straight and perfect.
With the guides and the snap to.
But doing
whatever.
It by hand, it would take so much time to make sure that the precision was there, that everything was straight or as straight as it could be, and it's just
that's why rulers exist.
I mean, yeah, but
there's
still always going to be flaw, which is fine. But
it is just crazy to think about. But yeah, like in this article, there's a couple pictures of like their work, and it's like for a grocery store. Oh, he says, one of the finished pages we hand lettered for a local grocery chain each week. And it just shows a corner of it, but the fact that they would make one of those every week is insane.
Yeah.
It's all hand drawn. It's only in black and red ink. And it's like a standard size today of one of the grocery coupon things. So that's insane. And the text is tiny. Like, this is a different picture from what I showed you earlier. But if you look at the text, it's like smaller than 12 point for sure.
Very small.
But yeah. So it's like kind of crazy to think about all this type of stuff.
Also, their photographic techniques were different. They did the halftone screens for the reproduction of images with tonal variations, and they used the halftone screens to break photographs into dot patterns, and that way they were able to kind of simulate gradients and shades within a single image, because like it used to just be like black and white. So with the introduction of halftone screens, they were able to kind of like layer different parts of the image to do different colors.
Which, I mean, even figuring that out at first would seem like so much time.
Because again, by hand, the computer doesn't do it for you.
I mean, like, imagine being the person who kind of like discovered the separation of layers to get that full color image. Like, I wonder how long that took to perfect it.
And then there was also the rubylith overlays. So this was used for the color separations in the different layers that they'd use for halftones and other image productions. It was kind of like a red masking film, which they would use to manually create stencils for each color layer for their printing process. Which, yeah. I'm trying to find it. I think we're on the same... I feel like we're on the same article now. Because I'm like, you just showed me that image and it's on this article.
Oh. Yeah, because on this one he says something about that ruby lith stuff as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like a film that masks off areas where color would be applied.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like a
color blocking.
A clipping mask.
Yeah,
type
clipping
thing.
mask.
It is interesting though because like in all these articles, everyone's always talking about X-Acto blades, and in one of these articles, there's like a magazine cover or something like that, and it's with a ruler, X-Acto blade, and some blood, and the little like text under it is just saying the usual injury suffered by designers, which is just because they're literally cutting up everything and moving things around.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I mean it's interesting now because when you like look at all the tools, they're more like pen and knife cut theme. So
Yeah.
it makes sense before, but it now kind of is like it all connects.
All right. Do you have any other points in before computers?
I mean, not really. I mean, I think this era of like, well, I guess yeah, just any design before computers was like obviously just way different to what it is now, but also just like the that like drum printing or whatever type stuff. I forget what it's called. I guess it's more of like, I don't know why I'm blanking out right now. Like letterpress. I've always found that stuff really interesting and cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's, I mean, it's hard to say because we've kind of seen like demonstrations on that and not like what we were just talking about, but that way seems a little bit more like fun, I guess.
Yeah. I
Like
also love how everything looked before computers. I don't know. I loved all the textures, the details. Yeah. Like, I can tell true artist was behind them. They had an eye and a vision, and
yeah, it's just
cool.
not.
It's just so different than what we do today.
Yeah, it's just, it's different. That's about all it really is. But yeah, I mean, different times.
Different times.
It is crazy to think, though. I mean, yeah, we are going to start getting into, like, early 2000s, but how much technology has changed since it was kind of first introduced?
Yeah, because going into the birth of desktop publishing, which was the mid to late 80s with the introduction of the Apple Macintosh, and that was the first time designers could visually manipulate different type and layout layers and just.
Yeah. I mean, even it was easier than it is with doing it all by hand.
Mm-hmm.
But if we were to look back at it now, it's not easy. It seems more complicated and time consuming.
Yes.
But back then, it was kind of like the new thing.
Revolutionary.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that all I could really remember from what you said was like when Illustrator first came out.
Oh, yeah.
It was only like code-based Bezier
curve
curves.
manipulation, yeah.
Which I think is insane.
You couldn't just like drag it or anything. You had
to. No, you can't. There's no handles.
And there was also
there's like no cursor.
When vector graphics arrives, it took serious skill because there was no like live preview or tutorial on how to do anything because no one had done it yet.
Yeah.
It was here you go.
It was like a kid whose parents like got a computer who would just kind of like mess with it after school would be the person to like master it.
Yeah.
While everyone else is kind of just doing what they already know because it's not worth putting the time to learn it type thing, I feel like.
Yeah. And moving away from the very hand-drawn elements too into the more digital, the early digital area is like there was a lot of bitmap graphics and low resolution displays because the early design was like very pixel heavy. There was no vector based tools, and so like all the fonts looked jagged. The screens couldn't display color, like
yeah, because it wasn't like a
eye.
high def screen. It was like their 8-bit type stuff.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I feel like, I know it was the up and coming thing, but I feel like a lot of people were kind of just like, not yet. It's not really worth it.
Yeah.
While others were kind of like, this is the future. If we learn this now, we'll kind of figure it all out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't know. I feel like if I were like a kid in that time, I'd be like, maybe. Actually, no. I feel like I'd probably get into it. But I think if I were older, I'd be like, I don't want to learn this.
Well, not even every household had a desktop computer.
Yeah, that too. Like, it was probably like going to the library or school, stuff like that. And even then, it was also like there wasn't YouTube. So it was truly like trial and error. You just
had to keep clicking things until you figured it out.
Inputting things.
Yeah.
And especially if it was like the code-based stuff. No one just knows that out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are bugs on it. I feel like.
There'd had to have been.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's something you just figure out.
Illustrator for Dummies, 1987 edition. Yeah. Something like that. But yeah, it is interesting. That's probably something I should ask my dad. Yeah. My dad was saying...
Would he know about all the designs?
Not design stuff, but just computers in general. Because he always tells me... Well, I don't really know how, much into computers he was when he was younger. But he was saying, one of my uncles was, on the internet. Was, one of the first people, to figure things out on the internet, when it was coming out. And then now he's working somewhere in Northern California, I don't know where. But basically saying, he was, a kid genius on the computer. But because, when you see old computer, things from movies or shows, the first thing I would assume that comes first is, the black screen with green text. Matrix computer looking thing.
Yeah.
But then when you think of, Macintosh, you think of, that old gray looking computer style, whereas the mouse was first introduced and people were moving it around.
Yeah.
Which even then back then all it does look like is just a really old version of computers now. So I was just if we were to go back to one of those computers, would it be easier or harder to use? Because we know how to use a modern day computer.
I think there'd definitely be a learning curve, like there always is with new technologies.
Yeah, but it's old technology.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even
I think,
when I went from my Windows computer to my Mac, I was lost. I couldn't do anything.
I get. Because it is new to you.
Yeah.
Guess, yeah.
And now that I know Apple, I know if I ever went back to Windows, I'd be like, where is everything?
I think I'm well, right now I'm kind of an Apple hater. As much as I'm not a huge fan of their, the way everything works compared to, Windows and Android. But, I'm still able to use both softwares.
Yeah.
But I do remember my first time using Windows. I was like, whoa, this is, way more advanced. And then, because the last time I used a Mac, or the first time I used a Mac was probably, elementary school. And that was just, messing around. I don't, play those Cartoon Network games, photo booth, stuff like that. And then I never really took it all serious. But I remember when I first got a PC, there's File Explorer. I was like, oh, why doesn't Apple have this? And then I found out it was Finder. But back then, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh, it does exist. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Because for the whole time, probably up until high school, I thought like Mac didn't have like a file, like search or organization system. Like I thought it was just the folders on the desktop. So yeah, I thought that was funny.
That is a little.
But yeah, anyways, back to the computer, the change to the computer era of design.
There was a software called Fontographer, which came out in 1986, and it was the first software that let designers create and edit digital fonts.
Is that where, like, does it say that was when, like, Comic Sans and Helvetica or whatever was first made? Like Times New Roman? Or I guess no, those, like, Times New Roman's probably taken from, like...
Yeah, from the letterpress and everything. I think Helvetica was before, actually. Yeah, it was 1957, but Comic Sans came out in 1994, a little bit after.
Wait, but Comic Sans was with Microsoft, right? Because I remember I read something, and honestly, right now I'm just going off of memory. I'm not really sure.
It was introduced with Microsoft.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, yeah. I can't remember what it was, but I remember I was talking about it in a class. But we were, like, talking about the first digitally produced typeface. I don't know what it was. But we were like, interesting. And it's kind of crazy how it works nowadays.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you can just draw whatever and import it in, and then you have a font. So, yeah, it's definitely harder.
Like, what else?
I remember you also saying something about, like, floppy disks and then it, like, crashing or something.
Oh, a lot of time was just spent troubleshooting printers and compatibility issues and floppy disk crashing mid-project. Just, there was also not a lot of good ways to save projects, so you had to, like, finish it in one go or you'd lose it all.
Yeah. I think that's funny, though, because, like, a floppy disk, first of all, it's, like, it's now the icon to, like, save a project or save anything. And I don't think a lot of people know that. And then even then, like, the storage capacity of a floppy disk is, like, really small.
So small.
It's like I don't know if it's more or less than a gig, but I was talking with my dad about it, and he was like, it's insane, like, for people who grew up with a floppy disk, and then we now have flash drives that can hold, like, 2 terabytes.
Yeah.
Like, insane.
I love that our cover is for the podcast.
Yeah.
Literally the floppy disk, too.
Have you ever, like, seen a floppy disk in person?
Yes.
Have you used one with those?
I have not used them.
I've only seen it, too, and I've always, like, seen it in, like, movies, games,
well, we never have the
shows.
technology
I know.
to actually use it. Because I'm like, it's not compatible with this.
Yeah. I mean, like, the most equivalent, I think, to a floppy disk is a CD.
Yeah. And one episode recording of our podcast literally killed a floppy disk. Like.
Yeah. Or even, like, I mean, this is off topic, but there's a movie on Netflix called Electric State that came out, and they did, like, all their YouTube press things. But there's a thing with, like, Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown about, like, the technology they used when they were teenagers. Mm-hmm. And, like, the Millie Bobby Brown was just her iPhone. And then Chris Pratt had, like, a Walkman, VHS player, cassette, tape recorder, all that stuff. And it was funny because he was describing how to get the tape from a camcorder and, like, putting it into a VHS tape and then putting it into the VCR to watch a video. And he was, like, so excited about it. And then she was like, but I have a phone. And he was like, damn.
It's not the same.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I'm also a fan of, like, old school retro tech type things. But I also like new tech. I think it's just technology in general. But yeah.
It's just cool that we've created all these things. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't really know if I wish, but the floppy disks always seem cool because it's like a little thin thing. I don't even know how to describe it. And you just like insert it. It's like a big Nintendo DS game card. But yeah. I wonder though if I have experience using it and I just can't remember.
Yeah, I know I don't have any.
But yeah.
Did you know that MTV's motion graphics were among the first to mix analog and digital elements for broadcast? I just thought that was a fun fact.
What does that mean though? Like, what is analog and what's digital?
I remember them having like kind of some kind of like motion animation over the top of some of their intros. Oh, okay. And stuff. So I think those are all like hand drawn and then incorporated. You know, in the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always kind of wondered what's with MTV. Like, why is it such a big name? But when you look at like the TV channel, it's like the stupid stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like the not so like quote unquote important or like entertaining type thing, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess that kind of makes sense. Because it is kind of like a big name in the television world, I feel like.
I think it was so big too. Well, not only just because of the new music that they're releasing on MTV, but because of the music videos, and they had really strong branding even from the very beginning. And I don't know, they were the first to incorporate, you know, analog and digital together, like kind of like trailblazers for all kinds of artists, not just musicians.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, based on what I've watched, like, as a kid, they seemed like and this is just purely based off what I've seen on TV, so I'm only thinking of them as a TV channel. But they seemed like the only TV channel that was kind of, like, upping their limits on, like, what they kind of, like, produce. Mm-hmm. So everything was not like what everyone else was doing.
It was new every week or whatever. Yeah. Whenever it aired.
I mean, the only thing I've actually ever seen on MTV is the Rob Dyrdek stuff. Have you ever seen that type? I mean, he has this thing called Ridiculousness, which is kind of just like America's Funniest Videos. And then he had this other show called Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, which was pretty great, I'd say. But it's kind of like a immature adult Dude Perfect type of show where they kind of they have this warehouse and then they just mess around. And that was like one of the funniest, and I think it's kind of like considered a reality show, but it was so funny. But yeah, I think those are the only two things I ever watched on MTV. But yeah.
I just remember all the music videos. I can't remember like any one of them specifically, but
I think, well, I mean, I think the first time I ever watched a music video was in like 4th or 5th grade, and it was only Minecraft parody music videos. And then but that was also like when I first got like an iPad. I was kind of like messing with all of that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of probably like the first time I ever had YouTube, and it was pretty much only like whatever I wanted to watch, which was pretty much just Minecraft. But yeah, I feel like I didn't watch any music videos before that. I mean, even then, I think if I look back, the music taste I had was interesting. Because it was kind of like songs my parents picked for me, mainly my mom. I mean, the stuff that my dad showed me, if I were to show people now, they're like, your dad showed you this when you were that young? Type of stuff. But yeah. I don't think I started watching music videos probably until high school. Mainly because I just didn't really know.
Yeah.
I also
I think
didn't
it
really.
was when I first got, like my first tablet or whatever, when I was like
Yeah.
late middle school.
I didn't really get into music a whole lot until high school, I'd say. When Spotify first came out, type of thing.
Yeah, I always liked music. I played instruments and stuff, but I didn't have like a lot of technology growing up. Like we did have like a home computer that my brother and I were allowed to like take turns using and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get phones until a little bit later, and which totally fine with. I did have like my iPod Shuffle that had 12 songs on it, and because I didn't have like money to buy new songs.
Oh, that's
so
the thing
I listened
hated.
to the same 12 songs over and over and over again for the entirety of middle school.
Well, yeah, like I remember I had an iPod Shuffle. Well, I remember like we took a family trip to Japan when all my brothers were younger, and my mom got us iPod Shuffles to listen while we're on like the trains, and there was probably like 12 songs on there. And there's some of the greatest songs I've ever listened to, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's the one thing I hated about music back then was you had to buy it every single time. That's something I always kind of like remember and forget about. But like, it's interesting now because it's just streaming and all that.
Yeah.
And like subscriptions and whatever.
I literally only had Taylor Swift's 1989 album on my iPod Shuffle.
Since I had mine in probably like 2008, I think there are only a couple songs I can list that were on that. And I think one of them was Dynamite by Teo Cruz. I think that's his name. Poker Face by Lady Gaga. And then the last one I can remember is the best song in the world. It's called Japanese Banana from Alvin and the Chipmunks. And it is probably like culturally inappropriate, but I mean, it is awesome. And I feel like my parents probably forgot about the fact that they like put that song on our iPod Shuffle, but it is great.
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah.
Would you like to move into the fun of the week?
We can move into the final week.
Yeah. I think we've
Let's take a gander.
thoroughly talked about pre-technology design and just technology in general.
I think, I kind of like how it was before.
I do too.
Like, I miss it. I think
I
a lot of people who, like, even though we were just kids, I think I do miss it. Because it's, like, more interactive than just looking at a light box.
I think, too, since we've talked about it in previous episodes, I think we both kind of like the more hands-on approach to things. And we like the sorts of handmade material, like textures and things like that while we're designing that we long for it. Like,
well, even then, like, I remember in, like, junior high when I was, like, a TA, I remember I would just be drawing because there's, like, nothing else to do. And I remember, we had, like, school iPads to mess with, but I don't even know if Procreate existed then. It probably did. Mm-hmm. But I was just doing everything by hand, and I do remember doing, like, custom type stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, I tried looking for it, but I think I threw it all away. But I remember I was, like, so proud. I had my mom laminate it, because at her school, they had, like, a laminator. I was like, can you laminate this? She's like, yeah. I was like, yes. But, yeah. I remember those good days. But even just, like, before having responsibilities, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah, it's just good old days. I miss, like, the iPod Touches when everyone was like, look what I got. I was like, what?
No way.
Yeah. Or even, I don't know if you had this, but I remember in, like, 3rd grade. I vividly remember it. It was 3rd grade. It was when the iPhone, like, 3GS came out, and some kid came up to school with that, and we're like, why the heck do you have that?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even, how old are you
You're
in
like
3rd grade? But
8.
it's like, why do you need that? Like, you
As an
shouldn't
8-year-old.
even be worrying about
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I think technology has become so ingrained in part of our culture that like it doesn't even impress us anymore. That's why we're like, we miss the good old days back when life was simpler and things were exciting.
Some technology is pretty impressive. I'll say that. But yeah,
like things like, you know, an iPod or a new phone or a computer, we're like, woo, it's so exciting.
I mean, yeah, there have been times where I was like, what if I just get like an iPod? Like there was a time, it was probably like senior year of high school going into college. I was like, I was hardly on my phone. I was like, what if I just get a flip phone?
Yeah.
I was like, I hardly text or call anyone. And I was like, I would want a flip phone.
Yeah. On Sundays, Apple releases like your screen time for the week or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like your screen time on average last week was 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I was like, why do I have a phone?
That's honestly pretty good.
I know.
I got one, I think yesterday. I was like, your stream time was 1 hour less than last week's, which I don't know what that is, but I was like, all right.
1 hour and 10 minutes. I will take it. I've been trying not to doom scroll. I've been reading instead.
I doom scroll.
I've been moving stuff, so that's also been helping not be on my phone. And I work a lot, so.
Yeah, I mean, now that it's warming up, I'll probably be like
outside.
Yeah.
I just had patio furniture delivered to my house. I got the notification. I'm going to set it up and I'm going to sit out there today.
Nice. I know today's going to be really nice. Or it is really nice. It's like a 70, mid 70, I think I saw today. It's going to be nice.
Or 69.
Okay. Nice. But yeah. Trying to think if there's anything old tech related, but I don't think so. Actually, there was one more thing. I wanted to get a flip phone because I wanted to do where people like answer, they go, yeah. That's it.
That's all.
Yeah, because I remember my mom had a flip phone. You know, I just remember. That's it. Or slide phones.
Yeah.
My brother had a slide phone with a keyboard. And
I'd mess with that all the time.
It's like a fidget spinner.
Yeah.
The early fidget spinner. But okay. Fawn of the week.
Fawn of the week.
Okay. Mine, I kind of changed ideas last minute.
Oh,
but I also did it last minute.
The last fawn of the week we chose was Montserrat Alternates.
Yeah, which honestly, I did not... When we first said it, I was like, okay, that's fine. And then when I like flipped it on in Fontspace and I looked at it, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And so like originally I had a different idea, but I kind of scratched it because it was more of like a aggressive approach to like my feelings about it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just flip it totally opposite. So yeah. Mine's actually really simple. And also, I was messing with the grain settings and I kind of just accidentally made a Riso look. Oh. So this was all in Illustrator.
Nice.
Which honestly...
Is that why your computer was screaming over there?
Yeah. Well, because, okay. So that spiral thing in the back, that is probably like 10 different brush paths with like the ink splatter brush stroke thing. So then I originally put a Gaussian blur on it because I was just going to do like a bunch of those and it's just like a splatted paint wall. Yeah. I was like, no, I don't really like that. So then with the Gaussian blur, I did a radial blur and that's why it was screaming. And then I was moving it around.
And then you put grain on top of it.
Yeah.
And then it was freaking out.
Yeah. So that's why it was screaming. But yeah. So it's honestly so simple. And I mean, the little texture on it that gives it that Riso look I kind of like.
Yeah, I like the spirally.
It's kind of like
colorful, grainy. It's cool. I like the drop shadow that you put on the words too.
Yeah, I mean, I had so many different ideas for the text, but I was like, I don't really know what would go with this.
Yeah.
So I just did based on that meme, clicks tongue, and then he says, nice.
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 This design is nice.
Yeah. Oh, I was just like, no, that kind of looks nice.
It is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, before I put the grain on it, the little center, I mean, you can still kind of see it now, but the center part looks like a dog smiling.
It does.
I don't know if you can see it, but I looked, I was like, huh.
That's funny.
That's pretty sweet. I'm trying to think of the other, like, little text things I was going to say. I did do one where it was, like, where the click's tongue is, it just said, bloody hell. And then I put a whole prompt on the bottom saying, like, why this typeface exists. And it just takes characteristics from other common Google fonts. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, but what should I put in the center? And then I ran out of time, so I was like, I'm not doing that.
It's fine.
And then another idea was, I don't know.
I don't know.
I had a couple different ideas for the text, and some of them weren't like. Some of them were more explicit, I'd say. But yeah. So it was super simple.
I like it.
And yeah, I do like the backdrop. And honestly, the asterisks kind of look nice.
They do kind of look nice.
I don't know why, but it looks nice.
Nice.
So yeah, mine was super simple.
Mine was super simple too.
Is that the Riso pack?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like the whole reason why we chose Montserrat Alternates is because Montserrat is like my favorite typeface. I use it for like everything.
It's also a very commonly used typeface.
Yeah. And it's so clean. It pairs well with everything. And so we thought it'd be funny if we chose the alternate version to do this episode.
Thought it was funny, after using it.
But I sat there looking at it, trying to decide what I wanted to do. And it's just so uninspiring.
Well,
and
the letter forms are just, some of them are just disgusting.
Yeah.
Like the E.
For the most part, it's very straightforward, very rounded letter forms. But then why does the E, the capital E, look like that?
Where's the capital E?
It's on yours.
Oh, the number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like the lowercase E's.
Yeah.
Where
they're slightly upturned, like.
Well, it's like that, but then the line that goes horizontal is really thin.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
That was bugging me.
I did not even realize that. Well, yeah, why is the middle bar thinner than the rest of it? Like the weight of it.
Yeah. I also don't like the T's. The capital T's are like a Tesla T.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
So, and the W's are a little weird too.
It's just interesting.
It's just interesting.
That's all it is.
I didn't know what to do, like to pair with this. So mine ended up being very random too. I was just scrolling through Pinterest and Pexels because that's what I do, like trying to find ideas. And I saw this picture of this woman with these funky sunglasses, like holding out a mango out in front of her with this crazy face. And so I was like, that's funny. I like that. And there was another photo of her posing in kind of a different position, but I was like, oh, maybe if I can like overlay them, kind of funny. She looks like she's having a day. And so I did the risograph pack again. I did one in kind of a mango-y color, one picture of her, and then the other picture of her holding the mangoes kind of like in a peachy red color. And they're overlaid, and so you can kind of see them underneath each other. But anyway, at the top, it says, when life gives you mangoes, don't ask why, just eat.
Nice. Another good usage of that texture pack, I'll say. I do think, though, the best time to use it is when you do overlay, like any sort of overlay. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, this one was I thought it... Well, I actually don't really remember what I thought. I think I had a different idea going into this. But then I did it last minute, so I was kind of rushing it.
Yeah. I didn't know. I was like...
I was expecting more of a Montserrat type of
Me
look,
too.
and then I typed with it, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. I was like, that's not going to work.
Oh, this isn't looking too
I was
good.
kind of thinking about doing something like I did, Fauna of the Week was it, episode 13 with the kind of story I wrote with that one kind of grayscale piece. And I was like, no, we're definitely not doing a body copy with this. This is not going to work.
I almost did a body copy, but it was so small you couldn't even read it. At least to like the scale.
I just feel like those random characters in a body copy would just stand out so much. It would just be so distracting.
Well, even like if you were to just turn this text into italic, it looks interesting. Like the D has like a little curve to the right at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And I was like, interesting choice. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I am not a fan of that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was
But we used it. We tried something new.
You gotta use it.
I'll stick to the original Montserrat.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that I am not a fan of about Montserrat is you can, or at least myself can easily, like recognize it if there's a capital G. Mm-hmm. Cause it's just like, I don't think any other typeface has a G like that, but I see it all the time. Like,
yeah.
That's Montserrat. But yeah.
All right. For the next Fun of the Week, on theme with this episode, we chose Prehistoric Caveman on Fontspace.
Heck yeah. Create some interesting stuff. I mean, I don't really know.
Yeah, it's very much a display. Yeah, very thick and bold. Prehistoric. Yeah, it reminds me of boulders.
It'll be interesting. I'll do, I don't know. Something Flintstones like.
Yeah, we were having fun with planning this episode, so that's how that one came to be. If you are not already a Patreon subscriber, we do have a sticker pack available for all subscribers if you'd like one. It's only $5. If you haven't already either, join our Discord server to connect with other designers, share your fonts of the week, and to maybe start up our vent line that we've been dying to use. And as always, too, an Instagram recap of this episode will be posted where there will be pictures of our fonts of the week and just like bullet points of what we talked about in today's episode and maybe any other images that we kind of talked about today as well or in any other episodes. Yeah. Is there anything else today, Ty?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I
think that's it. I don't think there's any other little announcements, so. Yeah.
All right.
Am I ending it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to 1-800 Sad Design. Until next time, keep designing, stay inspired, and dial into design.
Crushed it.
I did crush it.
Bye.
Bye.